Justice League 75. Death of the Justice League. Now, as y'all are aware, I've been following with Justice League for a while, and it has been just terrible. Just terrible. But they finally got around to this storyline that we've been hearing about for a minute, the death of the Justice League, and that is what I'm here to talk about today. I have heard many different opinions on this, and I have my own after having read it. So let's just get right into the story. Now, the first thing you're going to see when you first jump into this comic book, were you to actually have a physical copy of it, is that it has the whole Death of the Justice League on the front, and then when you open it, that's actually just like the letters are cut out or whatever. It's like a clear thing, whatever. You know what I mean. It's a clear sheet. When you open it, you have this thing where they're all falling into the light and shit like that. So you have that introduction to this, basically just already setting up that all of these characters are being thrown into something. So, I mean, this is already kind of giving away what we're going to be seeing in just a mo. But anyway, we start out with this giant title saying Earth Zero, the skies above Kondak, which is, you remember, that's where Black Adam's from. So we see where he's flying there, and his cape is looking all tattered now that I'm looking at it. I hadn't actually thought about it. But he's flying through, and all of a sudden he feels himself being teleported, so he's, of course, taken off guard, says, "Who dares?" And then he's gone. Same thing happens in Gotham with Batman, the Mascara with Wonder Woman, on Oa with Jon Stewart, happens in the Totality with Hawkwoman, Warworld's Orbit, Superman, Central City with Zatanna, obviously Atlantis with Aquaman, the actual Aquaman, Washington, D.C. with Martian Manhunter, and then lastly, it starts to happen with Black Canary, but of course, Oliver Queen is standing right next to her at the time. And for some reason, they're sitting in their home fully in costume. I guess that's just a thing that they always do now. They don't even bother to change out of their uniforms or whatever. Because everyone else was actually doing something which would make sense for them to be in, in costume. Well, except I guess for Martian Manhunter. But again, he can kind of change himself into whatever he wants. So that obviously he's going to be in that. But they're literally about to sit down and looks like eat burgers, and they're in full costume for some reason, whatever. So she starts teleporting, and then he grabs onto her, saying for her to hold on or whatever. And then, of course, they get teleported together, because we've all seen TV shows and movies. If someone is teleporting and you jump onto them, that means you teleport too. I don't know the science. I just know that that's what happens. We see that that's what happens. And then she's even saying, like, what are you doing? He says, "Oh, really? After everything we've been through, did you really think I was just going to let you go by yourself?" She says, "Not sure if grabbing me mid-teleport like that was the wisest move, Oliver." And she usually calls him Ollie, but he realizes, okay, she just called me Oliver. What's the purpose? But we don't get anything more on that, because they turn around and see Black Adam's there asking, where are we? And he says, "You know our names, right?" He says, "I was patrolling my homeland of Kondak when something pulled me into this darkness." So Black Canary is saying, Green Arrow and I are just as much in the dark as you are. So they walk into this other room, and she's like, "Well, we're not alone, though." And that's where we get this kind of setup. Kind of reminds me very much, because they're trying to very much go for that level of nostalgia with Crisis on Infinite Earths. And this is kind of what I remember from when I first read Crisis on Infinite Earths. You get to where all of the heroes are assembled in just like this giant room, and they're all just kind of standing around talking to each other, chit-chatting as it is. We get the whole, coterie, or I'm pretty sure that's pronounced with some sort of snobby French accent, but I'm not going to attempt it right now. So we get the whole like lineup. They give us the little, portrait pictures or whatever the hell you call these, the little, I think they're called cameos, when it's just like in a little circle. It's not important. So we got the whole cast here, and we see where Captain Carrot is talking to Superman. Superman's telling him he looks like hell, and that, we're here to help whatever happened. And that's when a voice comes from off panel talking to Superman, saying that he called the Justice League to the House of Heroes. And yes, it's the other Superman, Calvin Ellis, President Superman, whatever you want to call him. I call him unnecessary, but that's just me. Anyway, he's standing there saying that, the multiverse is in grave danger, and that he thought Justice League Incarnate would be able to handle the problem, but that they failed. And next to him is Dr. Multiverse, a new character. I haven't read Justice League Incarnate yet. I'll get around to it sometime. But I remember I saw it in the comic book store, and I was like, I think I'm okay. I'll get around to it. So I haven't actually read, what the hell it was they went through. I'll catch up at some point. It's not that important. So he's saying he's basically apologizing to everybody that's there, saying, I'm sorry, I just basically snatched y'all from whatever y'all were doing, wherever you were at, and brought you here. I was hoping that, more of you would be able to be here, but the House of Heroes still heals. So Dr. Multiverse and I brought who we could. That's when Superman flies up to him and is saying, what's going on? I thought Barry was with you because, yeah, Barry Allen's supposed to be on Justice League Incarnate, but he tells him, like, I should have come to you, Kal-El, the moment this all started. So he gives them, the little exposition dump saying, there is so much to tell you, but time is not on our side. I'm sorry to report that Barry Allen, your world's Flash, is trapped in a twisted reality, and the Darkseid has been enslaved by the Great Darkness, an ancient evil that has been awakened. It's created an army of unbelievable destructive force. Just know, in all my travels, I have never known fear like this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is kind of alluding to what they went through in Justice League Incarnate. Again, I haven't read it, but you don't really have to read it to know when they're basically trying to call back to something else. Anyway, we get all of that in there, and then he's telling Superman, the great darkness moves to possess the space between our worlds, which, as many of us know, is called the bleed. And so he's saying if we don't do something now, its nothingness will overtake everything. But Zatanna starts saying that her dad, Zatara, Giovanni Zatara, died trying to stop the Great Darkness before. It's the living embodiment of annihilation, and if it's awake again, this is more dangerous than anything any of us have ever faced. But Black Adam's trying to reassure her and everybody, I guess, by saying we already fought the Great Darkness and defeated it. But this is when Dr. Multiverse comes in and says, you don't fight the Great Darkness. It's a forever presence. It's not good or evil. Which, I mean, it's called the Great Darkness. So isn't it at least a little bit evil? I mean, wouldn't you come up with something much more of a neutral type of term if it were, I don't know, not so evil? The Great Darkness kind of really implies it's at least a little bit evil, And especially considering what it's doing, seems kind of evil. But whatever. She says the most you can hope for is for it to rest, but it's always there. And as soon as I read that, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I've seen this movie. Many of us have seen Jeepers Creepers, which is why I have that as the title for this particular video. Because yeah, I read that, I was like, that's Jeepers Creepers. Like literally, you can't kill the monster, you can only hope to defeat it and basically subdue it until it goes back to sleep and comes back 23 years later. That's literally what we're seeing right here. Like you can only hope for it to go to sleep and then it's just going to come back. But we never really know. Apparently here, I guess we never really know when it's going to come back. Wonder Woman is saying, the hands that shaped our universe warned me that saving the multiverse would come with a cost. The Spectre and I searched for that cost, but instead we found hope. And then President Superman decides to just drop the bomb on her saying the Spectre is dead. And she's just like, what? Right at that moment, they get attacked by the Great Darkness, which again, it's just attacking them, just randomly. So isn't it at least a little bit evil? Anyway, President Superman starts freaking out saying that the House of Heroes has been breached and they're out of time. So Batman is saying we need to get word back to Earth Zero, let the Titans know, and then Ollie is telling him, you worry too much, Bats. We're the Justice League. Stopping a crisis is our whole thing. Superman, Kal-El, the one that we all know, is saying to President Superman, you lead and we'll follow. Wonder Woman says, if this Dark Army wishes for war, we will bring it to them, but that's when Dr. Multiverse, who I guess is a teleporter, I don't really know much about this character, and I'm not going to pretend to. She is saying, my power of multivision can teleport us to the front line now, which isn't that just convenient? So that's exactly where they go, to this dead multiverse, because we are now in an omniverse, which means that there are multiple multiverses, and this is one such multiverse that has died, as you can see from all of the planets lined up, all the way to the back, and they're all basically destroyed or basically just falling apart. So we have that. They show up there, and that's when Arthur is asking, what is this place? And Dr. Multiverse tells him what I just said. It's the ruins of a dead multiverse. And Hawkwoman's a little bit surprised, saying, I thought that this was all gone. And that's when a voice comes from a panel saying it was swallowed by the darkness. And that's when they turn around and see, oh, look, it's Pariah. Again, this is all basically going back to Crisis on Infinite Earths. If you remember, Pariah was like the first person that we see, if I remember correctly, from Crisis on Infinite Earths. When the story first starts, he was the one who basically was cursed to have to watch every single world, every universe die. So that was that whole thing. And I remember even back then, and I've mentioned this in video prior that I always envisioned at some point that Pariah would end up becoming some sort of something. I wasn't sure if it was going to be some grand hero or some sort of grand villain, and apparently they decided to take the latter idea and run with it for this particular storyline. So he's standing there looking very much evil, saying, "I saw it happen, forced to watch over and over again," and then, as punishment for his sin. But he's saying, "My antimatter chamber started the Great Crisis, and now I will use it to correct my mistake." That's basically what he's doing here, because, yeah, that was how, the whole shebang first started, when he was a scientist working on shit and all of that. Anyway, she's saying that's him. He was the one who trapped Barry. And then Superman is asking him, because he knows him, he says, "Pariah, I remember you. Your world was the first one to fall to the anti-monitor. You were a scientist." And that's when Batman finishes it by saying that he was cursed and he had to go from one, terrible disaster to another. And then he's telling them, that's why I'm here now, the site of another great disaster. But Superman says, "I know what it's like to lose your world, Pariah." Yeah, we know. He says, "But this great darkness, it's using you. We want to help, Pariah, please." And he just says, "Help." Lies! The great darkness only wants peace. You and your heroes are what woke it with your wars. For the true multiverse to be reborn, your world must die. So, I mean, isn't that what already happened? If this is a dead multiverse, then the multiverse was already... It doesn't matter. None of this matters. We see all of these shadow demons come up, and then they take on very familiar forms. And he's saying, the great darkness has shown me the way. It said you'd try to stop us, so it gave me my dark army. And that's where we see, yes, we have all of these different well-known characters, as I was saying. We got, obviously, Darkseid right here in the front, Doomsday in the back, Eclipso, Ares, Necron, another version of Pariah for some reason. And then, I'm pretty sure that's him. And then, is that Trigon back there? And then I believe there's the Upside Down Man. He's also in there. So yeah, we have all of these different characters. This is where we get the nice big, double splash page of them going to confront the evil minions, I guess. Because they're not actually shadow demons, I suppose. They are actually mind controlled, as we're going to see in just a minute. Anyway, Pariah is saying, "What you see now is just a taste of the might of the great darkness. Once I finish my work, the great darkness and its army will be free. And finally, I in the multiverse will know peace again." But Batman tells Black Canary to let everyone else deal with the army. She asks, well, what are we going to do? He says, we have to go and stop him from doing whatever the hell it is he's going to do with his computer. So he says, no telling what it will, but before he can finish that, Necron is sneaking up behind him. John Stewart manages to stop it by putting a wall up behind him. And then we get, just all of these different fight scenes with all of the different heroes and villains, I suppose, all fighting. And we see this one particular panel where Aquaman and Aquawoman go to try and stab Doomsday, but their tridents literally just break. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, we get all of that in there. And then we see where Captain Carrot is fighting with Zatanna. He's saying that he hates magic, but he's going to make an exception. And then she's saying that her magic doesn't seem to be working on the Upside Down Man. And then we get, the nice shot in the middle of both Supermans fighting against Darkseid, because, of course, Superman, the regular one, I guess, is saying, "You're right, Aquaman, they are not themselves. Darkseid is not some brute fighter," which, true enough, but I mean, if you look at him, he's built to be. We know he's not, but he's built to be. Anyway, Wonder Woman is saying, if this were truly the God of War, this fight would be very different. Is this really them or shadows of them? And Dr. Multiverse is saying they've all been possessed by the Great Darkness, but Pariah is spreading that control and power too thin, which seems to make sense for what's about to happen. Anyway, Darkseid slams President Superman down into the ground again, and then he starts saying that the Great Darkness will bring an end to everything. Once we are free, the darkness will wield these creatures' full power. Black Adam calls to him saying, "New God," and he says, "Face the power of the old gods." He just hits him with lightning from his chest and all of that. And that was enough to kind of shake the influence of the Great Darkness for just a minute. And he says, "My chains. This war is already over, Black Adam. The Justice League cannot win." And so he starts to tell him your only chance of survival is, but he gets cut off because that's when the Great Darkness reasserts its influence, and then he shoots out his Omega beams that now have taken on a purplish color. I've always seen them red. Now they're purplish. So Hawkwoman is over there saying, "This is too much. We need backup." And that's when John Stewart says, "All right, I'm all the backup you need. I'm bringing the Godstorm." And then he uses his power to basically summon all of these different constructs of different heroes, which looks pretty cool. I'm not going to lie about that. And then we see where it does seem to be, mostly working. It's actually doing something. So Superman, who is drawn looking like, I don't even know, like he's, 23 years old here. He's drawn like that, and he says, "It's working, John." He's saying they can't handle my light. But that's when Pariah is saying, "Your light is at the pinnacle of its power, Green Lantern, but the dark has no limit. And my army is larger than you can ever grasp, thanks to Darkseid." And that's when they turn around to see, oh shit, it's the quintessence, which, if you remember all the way back from, what was it, when they had this whole thing going on with them and they all died. I did a review for that where they all died and Darkseid was the one who's like snuck up on them and killed everybody. So yeah, that's where this is coming from. But it says we get the speech bubble coming from the Spectre saying, "Once I was a spirit of vengeance, but I have been shown the truth. Now I am the spirit of darkness." So yeah, he pops up and is looking also very evil. So Wonder Woman is just like, oh no, the Spectre. He starts attacking John Stewart, telling him to die, and then we go back to Pariah saying, "Nearly complete. My suffering will finally end." And Batman's trying to stop him, saying, "You're done in more ways than one," but he gets basically blocked by some more of the shadow demons who come up. Wonder Woman is saying the shadow demons won't let anyone get close to him, and that's when Green Arrow comes running up saying, "Watch and learn," and he tells Canary to cover him because Doomsday is about to try and attack him, so he flips over him, and then she just like screams out and asks, "What are you doing?" He says, "What I always do, saving the damn day," and he takes his shot, and it does happen to work because he manages to avoid everyone, who's here fighting with the shadow demons, and even the shadow demons aren't able to catch the arrow, I guess. And it does hit the computer, blows up, basically disables the thing, and of course that pisses off Pariah, asking him what he's done. President Superman is now saying his dark army is weakening. And so we can see where, yeah, they are all starting to dissipate. It says the darkness retreats. They're trapped here. Green Arrow is basically saying, "Aren't you all glad I came? Now let's shut this down and go home. I'll make chili." But all of a sudden, Doomsday somehow gets the drop on him, even though he's gigantic. He gets the drop on him and does this. And just looking at all the blood that's kind of squirting upwards, yeah, he's at least down for the count. So, of course, I posted this picture on Twitter of Black Canary because what is this face? Like, what is going on with her mouth? She looks like a blow-up doll. What the hell is this? Oh, God, whatever. So she runs up, saying, "No, no, 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 no." And then she's asking him, why did you follow me?" He says, "I'll always follow you, pretty bird." And I'm assuming that punch that he got from Doomsday was also enough to recede his hairline, because as you can see, it looks like he almost has pretty much damn near no hair anymore. Look how far back it goes. But I know it's mostly the angle, but still, it doesn't look right. Anyway, Pariah is saying, "I can still fix it. This isn't over." He's trying to repair the damn thing. And then we get the Trinity coming up, looking like they're all literally about to strike because they're all in the air. Granted, two of them can fly, but Batman can't. They're all leaping with their fists up. But I guess they all just did like a Power Rangers thing where they all jump into their position, because of the next one, they're still like at least 4 feet away from him, and they're just kind of standing there looking at him. So kind of defeats the purpose for the whole heroic leap, but whatever. Batman is saying, "Dr. Multiverse, get Green Arrow and the rest of our teams to the Hall of Justice." But she's saying, "You don't understand. Pariah is more dangerous than..." And she gets cut off when Pariah says, "You've only delayed the inevitable. I had hoped all your talk of heroic sacrifice for the greater good was more than just words. But instead, you will be mourned." And this is where we get another homage to Crisis on Infinite Earths. If you will remember, this is basically, I'll put the page up too, when Barry Allen was having to run around to generate, I believe he was trying to generate speed, or was he trying to, whatever it was he was doing. He had to run really, 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 really fast, and he had to keep doing it until he literally wasted away. And that's basically what they're recreating here with, the panel by panel of them slowly decaying, and it just kind of like, the panels keep going even though we can't see them anymore down, We have that in there, and then he says, "I wanted to bring peace to the multiverse." And then we see where he turns his power on all of the other heroes, which, I mean, if he's able to do this, why wouldn't you have just done this to begin with? Why bring the Shadow Army if you can literally just disintegrate everybody by waving your arm? He's not even using any type of machinery or technology or weaponry. He's just summoning this power from his hand, and he was able to do that. But I guess whatever, right? He's saying, to them, to finally make amends for my sins. And then Black Adam comes up, says, "You will die for your sins, murderer," because I guess he was behind him. But he comes up, punches him in the face, and has no effect. He punches him again, has no effect. And then Pariah catches his last punch, saying, "I survived the deaths of infinite Earths. You think a punch from a false god could hurt me?" And yeah, he takes off flying. as everybody's just getting disintegrated. He says, "What I do now is for the best. You'll see." So he starts doing it to Black Adam too. And he says, "You'll be happy." And that's when Black Adam finally gets the idea, like, well, this may be the end of me, so might as well take one more Hail Mary pass. And he starts to say the word, and he does manage to get it out. He says Shazam, which hits them, of course, with the lightning. We all know how that works. So it hits him, and then we see where they both appear to be just knocked out from the lightning itself. Black Adam starts falling, and then we go back over to Black Canary, who's still there with Green Arrow. Black Adam's still falling. Pariah is knocked out, and now so is Black Adam as we fade to black. We come back to the Hall of Justice as there's a conversation going on inside, saying, "Where is the Justice League?" No one is answering their comms. This is Wally West, saying, "Who could take them like that?" And Detective Chimp says, "We're on the case, Red. Don't rush to any conclusions." So Naomi is saying she saw Martian Manhunter just get like teleported out of the break room. And then Wally's saying, "I need to get in touch with Barry. Maybe he knows what's going on." That's when John Kent, the new Superman, floats in and says, "What is going on? Robin told me that Batman was teleported away too and hasn't returned. If someone was taking the Justice League from all over, what about my dad?" Well, some bad news for you there, bucko. So we start seeing where there's like a quake that's going on, which of course gets everybody's attention. And then Naomi's asking what it was. Detective Chimp surmises that it was like a bomb went off. So they all, of course, rush to go see what it was, and they identify from where it came. So they walk in, and it's apparently the meeting room. And that's when they see lying down there, because there's a speech bubble coming from off the bottom saying they're all dead. And we see where, yeah, sure enough, it was Black Adam who fell down saying the Justice League are dead. And that's where that ends for right now. So there we have it. We have the beginning of this phenomenon known as the death of the Justice League. And it's just, there's no real, obviously it's not going to last. We all know that. It's not even something that needs to be discussed. It's not something that needs to be asked. Well, are they actually? No, of course, they're not actually dead. They're coming back at some point. How long it's going to take is the only real question. That's the only thing that we have here. And that's why it's so pathetic that they keep going back to these same played out tropes. Doing it with the whole team instead of just one character doesn't make it more interesting. It doesn't make the story any better. Like I said, there were so many contrivances in there. For one thing, like I said, if Pariah really had that much power, why didn't he just wipe them all out the minute that they showed up, trying to stop him? All he had to do was hold up his hand and exert his influence, and he was able to disintegrate everybody. So why even go through all of the hassle of bringing in the Shadow Army and enslaving all of these different like villains? Like, what was even the point? You could have literally just probably gone to each of these heroes that you thought could have stopped you and disintegrated them. Or, like I said, the minute they showed up, you could have just disintegrated them. Going through the whole thing just to get to that point where you're like, all right, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of y'all myself because I have that power. Then why didn't you start with that? And yeah, it's just this whole thing with the Great Darkness, it's not actually good or evil. Again, it seems pretty evil, at least a little bit. You might be able to argue that it's not really a conscious thing, which, I mean, at this point remains to be seen whether or not it's actually a conscious being or not, or it being controlled by a conscious being. But the whole thing with it, it's just, you're not going to call something the Great Darkness and then convince me like, well, it's actually not evil, so why did you name it that? Call it something else. I don't know. There are other terms, other words you could have used. The Great Darkness, that doesn't exactly instill on me a sense of wonderment about, I wonder if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's called the Great Darkness. Come on now. It's a great band name. I'm not going to deny that. That'd be pretty cool as a band name. But no, just no to all of this. Because now what are we left with? We're left with the second and third stringers to try and figure all of this shit out. This is why I need the events to stop. Just stop. We have too many crises to go through. And I've read literally every single one of them. All of them, going all the way back to the very first ones. I've read them all. We don't need any more, especially when they keep doing more and more. It seems like it'll be a yearly thing, where all of a sudden there's this crisis that is threatening the universe, the multiverse, the omniverse at this point. My God, I don't even know what else they're going to try and come up with for this next. Like, just stop it. Start telling stories of the heroes that are just self-contained. If you want to do Justice League stories, you can do that too. But just keep that shit self-contained. Enough with the universe-shattering, multiverse-shattering, omniverse-shattering bullshit ass storylines that basically, like I said, this is trying to just capitalize on the death of Superman phenomenon, because this is 30 years since that happened, but also the Crisis on Infinite Earth thing, because you saw that with a lot of like the panel work with Pariah being the main. Well, I don't even know if he's the main villain, but apparently he's connected to it in some way. All of these things together, it's just they're taking things from the past and they're like, well, maybe we can rework it into something that works now. Stop it. Just stop it. Just tell me stories that are okay on their own. I don't need some big line wide crossover, which I mean, we don't really know that this is going to cross over into everything, but how could it not? When you're trying to make moves this big, obviously it's going to affect everything else. Even if you don't tell tie-ins in other series issues and shit like that, it's still going to affect everything on some level. So I don't know. I have no real high hopes for this, which y'all probably could have figured out from the very beginning of this video. You could have figured that out from the moment I started talking about this particular event. But yeah, like I said, I don't have any high hopes for this. There's nothing here that inspires even the slightest bit of confidence in me that this is going to be a good story. Could it end up being such? Maybe. Again, I'm not going to hold my breath because I really don't believe that it will be. If I were to be absolutely surprised, y'all know I will be honest and absolutely say, okay, yeah, it actually turned out to be pretty good. But as of right now, at the outset, nah, I don't see it happening. So we'll see where this goes. I guess we'll see how the Great Darkness goes about its tirade and what these like I said, second stringers. I know a lot of people love Wally West and they're like, he's not a second stringer. Yeah, but I mean, as far as what he's doing in the Flash series right now, it's not really that much, tied to any of this. He was doing stuff with like Justice League Dark, just recently, but it overall, there's no real. I'm wondering like, what is even the point? These characters that are left, like, what is it they're really going to do? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But if you have any thoughts, share them with me down below in the comments section. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like the video and that you're subscribed and you got the notifications on and all that fun stuff. But if you're done here, go and read a book. I would advise staying away from this one. But that's just me. But if you're not, then I'll see you on my next video.